Hey everyone, this is Derek Kirk Kim, writer and artist of The Last Mermaid, and you're watching The Brothers Boyd.
Hey guys, Josh here with Chris and Derek Kirk Kim, the writer, illustrator of The Last Mermaid from Image Comics. You can see behind him, he's got a couple of photos there, and I have all four covers behind my head here. Um, Great book, man. That picture over your shoulder with the axolotl, that's what made me pick it up. I
Oh
saw
wow,
you two
awesome.
on Free Comic Book Day, and that image just grabbed my eye. So I grabbed one and two, and I got hooked.
Oh wow, that's so great to hear. Yeah, it's definitely an eye catcher at like every convention I do. Every kid that walks by is like axolotl. So yeah, I think I made a wise choice in making her sidekick a axolotl.
It is a great story. You know, I've read 1 through 4. Chris has read 1 through 4. We
Yeah.
actually were sitting at the flea market on Saturday, and I read 4 and passed it to Chris, and it's
Oh wow.
just amazing, man. The artwork tells the story. It's beautiful.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I want it to be a very visually oriented story. Last book I did was very verbal, so this time I want to do the complete opposite and try to have the visuals tell the story because comics is a visual medium.
Yes. Well,
Mm.
the characters, even, issue 1, she just grabs you. The mermaid, she's an amazing character, her little axolotl friend. And you feel for her when that toxicity meter comes up on the machine she's traveling in.
Yeah, it's very dangerous. Just like the fish in your fish tank, you need to replenish the water, refresh the water every once in a while. And she's in the same boat. She breathes through gills. She doesn't breathe through her lungs, so she needs to breathe through water. So yeah, every once in a while she has to change the water, and it's like her biggest weakness because she's in a place that has no water basically.
Yes. So tell us a little bit how the story came about for The Last Mermaid.
There were several different ways that it came together. It was like a few things I just kind of merged together. One was I was watching this documentary about Rumspringa, the Amish tradition where they get to go out for a year and they get to explore the outside world and then come back. And when I heard about that, I don't know why I thought this, but I thought, what if mermaids had that? What if mermaids had one night where they could go out into the surface world, they could explore our world, and then by the end of that day, they have to come back. In that original story idea I had was they would do it for one night. So they would go out at like sunset, and then by sunrise, they would have to go back to the ocean, right? And when I thought of that about that story, I thought mermaids would need some kind of machine to be able to walk around on land. So then that's when I came up with the idea for the Havoc. And you can see in the original drawing that I did in the first issue, in the back of the first or second issue, it's a very much more cartoony kind of mechanical sort of device. And then when I went to make this story, it became much more sci-fi and advanced looking and cooler, I think. And so that was one element of it. And then the other element was I love post-apocalyptic stories like Mad Max. It's like one of my biggest influences and favorite kind of genre things. And I used to play this role playing game called Gamma World, which I love. It's a post-apocalyptic role playing game made by the Dungeons and Dragons people. So I always wanted to do a story set in a post-apocalyptic world, but I wanted to do something kind of unique, something we hadn't seen before in that world. And everybody needs water, but I thought, what would like ramp up the stakes even more in a post-apocalyptic world? And I think that would be like something that really depends on water, right? Like a mermaid. So I remember I had that original story idea, and then I always wanted to do a post-apocalyptic story, and then I kind of combined the two, and that's how the Last Mermaid was born.
That's awesome, man. It's a great story. I'm invested. I know we talked when you had finished issue 3, and we've got the little bit of story points, but issue 4, if people have not read it yet, they're in for a surprise because it gives a meaning to her search, and it tells us where she's going, what she's
Yeah,
looking for.
exactly. So since the book is already out, I'm just going to talk about it. Yeah, the mermaid is looking for this mythical place that's marked by this, what she says is a trident piercing the sun.
Yes.
So she's looking for this um, giant object that is going to mark where her home is supposed to be, where hopefully she finds people others like herself. And she's never known anybody. Well, she has known one, but which you'll find in the next issue. But as far as she knows, she's like the only one, which is why it's called The Last Mermaid, of her kind. So that's why she's risking her life going from water cave to water cave, not knowing exactly if she's going to survive, to find this one piece of hope, which is her home. So that's the big revelation of this issue. And yeah, I'm really curious what people think about that.
Yeah, it was an interesting revelation. It really gave some depth to the story. You know, we had already invested in her. You took the first 3 issues, got us invested. The first issue, we see the guy on the bridge, and I read the first issue and I went through the letter columns and was reading, and I was like, hold on a minute. I had to go back and look again because I had forgot the guy was on the bridge. I was so invested in her and the axolotl.
Oh,
And
wow.
then when we finally meet him in issue 4, it was a great story there.
Oh, great.
He's a character that just jumps at you from the start.
Oh, awesome. That's great to hear.
And
I
Derek,
really want. Oh, I'm sorry, Chris.
No problem. One of the things I wanted to say, talking about that great character, and one thing that really jumped out to me in this particular issue is your line where the character says, "Always look for your helpers." Man, that touched me in a special place because I grew up with Mr. Rogers, and so to have that there, that was super awesome. That was great, and I love that. So
same here. I'm a huge Mr. Rogers fan. Had a real impact on how I see the world and everything, and showing kindness to others and stuff like that. So I thought it would be the perfect moment to not only use that line, but to show something about the character without him having to explain anything. Just him even knowing that line, I think so much, because it means that at some point Mr. Rogers existed in this world, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing, and then 2 is that's something that he memorized means something about his character as well, and so it said a lot. One thing that was surprising was, have you guys seen X-Men 97 yet? All the episodes?
Yes,
Chris has.
yes,
I
I've
haven't
seen
yet.
them all. Yes.
Okay. This is not really a spoiler. It's just a little moment in the story, but they actually used that same line. I could not believe it.
Yeah, they did. They did.
For the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. The ever affable Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, when I wrote that part, I never even imagined somebody else would do that or use that line. It's kind of an obscure thing. So I put that in the comic. I wrote that in the comic like years ago when I first wrote the story, and then the X-Men episode came out only like a month before this issue came out, and so I was kind of like, no, because I thought I was the only one using that, but I guess not. I guess everybody loves Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers is universal. He can be used everywhere. So yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I am in good company because X-Men 97 was awesome. So
it was an amazing show. Yeah.
I've heard really good stuff about it. I've actually gone back and started watching the original series.
Oh, wow.
And worked my way back up to 97.
Oh, wow.
So long since I've seen it.
Dang, yeah, you're a dedicated fan then, because I saw those a long time ago, and I don't have the time to watch them again. But yeah, it would be awesome to be able to.
So you came about this. I was reading in your letter column during COVID. Is that correct? You were working on this.
Yeah.
Had worked to kind of tell everybody about where you come from before comics.
Yeah, I started in comics, but then I spent like 10 years in animation. So right before Last Mermaid, I was actually in animation, mostly in TV. So I worked on shows like Adventure Time, Amphibia on Disney Plus. I worked on Green Eggs and Ham, which is on Netflix. I worked on a bunch of shows for Fox for this short-lived animation block called Animation Domination High Def. Okay. And I did a bunch of cartoons for that. Like I worked on a bunch of cartoons for that, like Axe Cop. actually got the comic
Okay, yeah.
turned into an animated show. So I worked. That was my first show that I ever worked on, and I worked on bits and pieces. I worked on a little bit. I helped. I pitched some designs for the new Powerpuff Girls. I did a show that was also based on a graphic novel series, but it never got made. We did the whole pitched the whole series. They put us in, like Cartoon Network put us in a room and had us come up with all these story ideas for this graphic novel series. I don't know if I'm allowed to say, which is why I'm not naming it, but it's a really popular children's graphic novel series. So I worked on that too, but that one never got made. So that's like a part of working in animation. Sometimes you can work on things and never even airs. It's crazy. Yeah. So but yeah, and then that's the show that I was working on right after, right before the pandemic hit, and then that's when, like everybody else, my life got turned upside down. Right at that point, my parents had some health issues. It all coincided with the pandemic. It was crazy, and then so I had to just rush and move back to the San Francisco Bay Area, which is where I'm from, and to take care of my parents. And during that time, while I was taking care of them, on my off time, I would work on the comic because I couldn't work in animation anymore at the time. And not only that, but I mean, everything was shut down anyway for the first, beginning of the pandemic. So, like a lot of creative things that came out recently, the pandemic kind of spurred it on, So I guess that is one, if we could put one positive spin on the pandemic, it's a lot of work came out of that time, including The Last Mermaid.
Awesome. Yeah. And that, that is a positive from that. People had time to be creative, and that was a good thing, especially with something like this. Your book, your story, you can tell you had a career in animation going into this, because it feels like a Disney Pixar film when I'm reading it.
Yeah, it's slightly darker, but I could definitely see that.
Yeah, the Little Mermaid meets Furiosa more.
That's a great way to put it. That's a perfect way to put it. Yeah. I tell people, like, if it's like if you like the Little Mermaid, Mad Max, and Robotech, you'll probably like The Last Mermaid.
And it's an amazing book. I do have a question for you. The style of the book. Most of your books that come in this size, it's a different size than a regular comic, are limited series, like 3 issues. So when I first picked it up, I was thinking it was going to be a limited series till I got to your letters page, and you say you've got about 25 or 30 issues for it. Is there a reason why you chose the size of the comic?
Yes, there's a creative reason why I chose it. It definitely wasn't to help my sales or make retailers and collectors happy. That's for sure. I wanted to make the traditional comic book size, but when I was first started working on it during the pandemic, because I was still kind of in my animation mindset. I started it out as a animatic, which is storyboards. So I kind of storyboarded out maybe like the first issue, and it was all in that like 16:9 TV ratio that you see like on your TV. So the whole thing was already drawn, like laid out in that format. And then I wanted to at least have an 8-panel grid, for a comic. So I shrank that ratio down. And when that happened, I put it into a narrow comic book format. The panels got really small, and it's stacked to like 6 rows or something. So it'd be like 10 panels that are really tiny, on a comic book page. So I just thought, this is not going to work. So I'd either have to reformat every panel that I drew already to fit a comic book page, or I could widen the comic. So those are my 2 options. And I did try reformatting it to a comic book format, but it just took too long, and it was just sucking up too much time. And I thought I could spend that time more wisely actually drawing the comic or writing the comic, So that's where I ended up with the size. But I still don't know if I made the right choice, but that's what I went with at the time. So.
I like it. It's different than any other book you get, and I like the style of it. And I think when you collect it, it'll make like a great book. The great
I hope so
size
too.
of the book.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping when it comes out as a trade, people won't really think about that part of it as much, because books come in all different sizes. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and I think a lot of some of your interior, most, if not all of your interior work is beautiful. And so to be able to see it in that format, I think it gives you a better, just a better looking book in itself, because some of those pictures really pop, and in that format, that size, it really adds to what you've created there. So,
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I kind of liken it to like like an IMAX version of a comic.
Yes.
there you
There
go.
you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
The
should put
Last
that.
Mermaid in the IMAX. Yeah.
Awesome. Now you said you worked on other comics before you went into animation. What are some of the books you worked on before that?
So probably the most notable, because he's become such a superstar, is called The Eternal Smile, and it was done with Gene Luen Yang, who's famous for American Born Chinese, Superman, you know, et cetera, a million books. So that's a book we did together. He wrote it and I drew it. So that one also has some painted work as well. But that one was really fun because it's 3 short stories that's collected into one book, and each one of the books I drew in a different style. So it won't even look, it doesn't even look like if the names are taken off and you just read The Last Mermaid and you pick that up, you might not even notice that it was me, which is probably why a lot of people don't even remember me. But yeah, one is drawn like a Karl Barks, like Uncle Scrooge style. Okay. It's about a frog. It's like a send up of Uncle Scrooge. And then one is drawn in like kind of a indie comic, like Mignola-ish, you know, like that kind of style. Story. It's like a fantasy story, and then there's another one that's like a slice of life. So it's very like hatchy and scratchy, kind of realistic kind of style. And so that's one book I worked on, and Gene and I were lucky enough to win an Eisner Award for that one for best short story. And then the one on my own that I won a couple awards for, and probably the most notable for myself, is called Same Difference, and it's a slice of life story. And it's about 2 friends who kind of, it's like a coming of age story. It's about them kind of being kind of immature and then kind of growing a little more mature through the course of the story. It's about this guy who kind of hurt the feelings of a blind girl when he was in high school. And he meets her again later in life and has to kind of reconcile what he did and try to kind of apologize to her. And so that's what that book was about. And did another book series called Tune from First Second Books. That one was supposed to be 4, but it only went to 2 books, and it didn't sell well enough, unfortunately, for me to finish the story, 3 and 4. So so that's actually when I went into animation, because I just was feeling really down about about the book not doing well enough. But it's one that I really enjoy, and it's a kind of a comedy, sci-fi comedy.
Awesome. We'll have to look those up. I know I like Gene's work. His Superman Smashes the Klan was a great.
Oh yeah,
really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And then his other work on Superman was good as well. When he was doing, believe he did the Batman Superman World's Finest for a little while.
Yeah, he did. That's right.
That was a good
he did some wild stories in there.
Yes.
Yeah. You think he even had like a Choose Your Own Adventure one, I think, in that series. Yeah.
Nice. I enjoyed American Born Chinese. That was like one of my favorites. I really enjoyed reading that one. So
yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, that one and Same Difference, we kind of came out around the same time.
Okay. Yeah.
That's when we first started getting friends. Yeah.
We're definitely going to do some digging for those books you just mentioned, because I'd like to read them. We'll be in Charlotte this weekend for Heroes Con. Chris, with all the books there, we should be able to find some copies.
Yeah, we probably can. We probably can.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, I forgot. There's another graphic novel I did called Good as Lily. And that one was through DC, actually. DC had an imprint called Minx for a little while. And Jim Rugg did a book for them too. And with Cecil Castellucci, called The Plain Janes. And it was in that same line. And
oh, yeah.
And it was called Good as Lily. And it's about a teenage girl on her 18th birthday. She gets hit on the head, and then herself at 3 different times in her life suddenly appear, like her 70-year-old self, her 30-year-old self, and her 6-year-old self. And then they each have a problem at that point in her life, and she has to solve it for them to make them go back to their own time. So cool. There's also a book as well. Yeah.
Awesome. That sounds like a cool book.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I like it.
So The Last Mermaid, you said 25 or 30 issue story is what you put into the book?
Yeah, I mean, it's a rough estimate because I haven't thumbnailed out the exact pages yet, but because the script the amount of script that I've illustrated so far is about 1/4 of the story. That's why I'm guessing it'll be about 30 issues. Yeah, because yeah, the first 6 issues is about 1/4 of the script.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's one finite story. Yeah, beginning, middle, and end. Yeah.
Awesome. So I know you're working on this one. Do you have anything else in the pipeline you're thinking about for when this one is done?
Yes. So there's another one actively in the works. It's called Royals, and it's about 2 telepathic brothers who are telepathically linked, and they use this skill to con poker games. And then the story, they get caught, and they don't realize until it happens that the poker game is actually run by this underground mob in Korea, and they want their money back, and they lose the money, and then they have to do this job for them to pay them back using their abilities. So that's what that book's about, and it's coming out next April 2025, and it's drawn by a fantastic artist named Jacob Perez, and he's an artist on the Tales of the Ninja Turtles show that's coming out soon.
Awesome.
The new cartoon show that's based on the new movie, and yeah, he's just blowing me away with the art. So I can't wait for everyone to see it when it comes out. If you go to my Instagram page, I do have a couple preview images of it.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll have to
and I'm assuming that's going to come through Image as well.
Yes. And this one is a self-contained graphic novel, so it'll be all at once, 210 pages, one hardcover graphic novel.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, now that you say that, do you prefer working that way or working in the issue by issue way?
Gosh, that's one thing I do like about the issue by issue is like the sense of like community you get. It's like binge watching a TV show versus week to week, when the week to week people talk about it between the episodes, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that like conversation back and forth between the reader and the and myself. So that's a great part about the issue. The tough part is, I think, the way the industry is sort of or the marketplace is sort of structured. I think there's a lot of like heat on the first issue, and then it's kind of hard to like hold on to everyone as the series goes on. It seems like I'm only on the 5th right now, so I'm not 100% sure about how it's going to go, but it's not something I'm used to, because almost all of my work that I've done before I went into animation was graphic novels, as I've mentioned. When I first started, I actually did start on work for Ninja High School by Antarctic Press. That's how I broke into the industry. I did a lot of covers and short stories and little random pieces of art for Ninja High School, and then I did a little 3-issue series for Antarctic Press as well. So I do have a little bit of experience with the pamphlet world, but I'm still kind of new to it so far. But yeah, and then the great thing about the book, the publishing in one book, is that all the stories out at once. So there isn't you can kind of satisfy the reader all at once. Yeah, there isn't as much of a, I guess, kind of like a risk for the reader, I guess, maybe in a way, because maybe if you start collecting the little short pieces and you don't know exactly where it's going to go, maybe they won't be happy with where it goes. I don't know, but yeah, it's all kind of new to me. But how about you guys? Do you guys like to read an issue?
I think one of the things, like with me, and Josh may say the same thing, I'm a child of the 80s. When I grew up watching TV shows, we couldn't binge watch them. We had to wait till next week to see the next episode. So you kind of get that same feeling when you're reading comics, and it's nice to have something to look forward to. And when you look on your pull list and you say, "Oh, look, Last Mermaid 5 hits this week. I'm excited I get to read it." So that's how I feel. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
And for me, if it's a long form book, like you said, this will be 25, 30 issues. I read it as soon as it comes out. If it's a 6 or 12 issue miniseries, I might read the first one and then I hold off until I've got the whole thing and I read it once.
Gotcha. So you'll collect the issues and then read it all at once, or you mean you wait for the trade?
I'll collect them. I'll get them each month and then read it all once the whole thing is out.
That's so cool. Yeah, I also grew up in the 80s and 90s, so I'm also, of that generation too, which is why I wanted the letters page back, and it's very nostalgic for
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, since we're talking about the letters page, have we landed on a name yet? This will be a Brothers Point exclusive right here.
Yeah, actually, another thing I did on my Instagram page is I actually couldn't choose. I got so many suggestions. I got probably like maybe 30, 40 suggestions. So I put them all in a hat. And then I just, whatever one I picked was going to be the titles. That's what I did. And it ended up being Lottie's Legions.
Lottie's
Awesome.
Legions. Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
What do you
like
guys think about that? You like it?
I like it.
I like it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I do.
it's really
I do.
cute. It's a cute
There
one.
were some really great ones that you received because I was reading the letter pages and they're just people are on top of it with giving you some great names. So
Yeah,
so
everyone
I
was so
like it,
creative.
Yeah.
Everyone was so creative. Yeah. Did you have some favorite ones, Chris, that you were hoping was going to be the one?
I like the Axel letters. I really like
Oh,
that
Axel
one.
letters. Yeah.
I did like that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a good
So,
one. That was a good one
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
How about you, Josh? Did you?
That's the one that hit me. That's the one I thought was really cool
Yeah.
when I saw it. Axel letters. But I like the Lottie's Legion too. That's a good name.
Yeah, I
It's
do. I
Okay.
really like
anything
that.
you'll
So,
see.
Yeah.
And we'll make
Yeah,
it
the one I got the most though was Mermaid. I got like that like 10 times maybe. Yeah.
remember. Yeah, I did appreciate that one too. That was pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, because I got it so many times though, I was a little worried that maybe some other mermaid related thing had Mermaid as well. So I was a little worried, but whatever, it didn't end up getting picked anyway.
awesome. Well, we wish you great success with this book. I hope it goes full 25, 30. Heck, I hope when you get down to the last issue, you realize you've got another story to tell with the characters and you keep it going. Because
I can definitely, yeah, if it proves popular enough, I mean, I definitely have more stories in the world for sure.
Awesome.
So that would be really cool. Yeah. But yeah, continued success to you guys. You guys have an awesome YouTube channel, and I love your positivity, enthusiasm, and your coverage of all these different artists. It's really cool.
Awesome.
thank you.
man.
Thank you.
So any chance that if it hits enough success, you get to venture back over to the animated side and do an animated film or cartoon with the lab?
I mean, that's up to the movie studios if they contact me for that. I mean, of course, with my experience, I'm happy to do it. But getting your own show, it's like winning the lottery, essentially.
Yeah.
Having been in that world and have pitched many, many times. You think, hey, my idea is just as good as these. Why not, right? But there's so many things that go into it. The person you're pitching to, how you pitched it. Like if you're a good pitcher or not. That reminds me. So the first version of The Last Mermaid, I mean the Little Mermaid that was in the mech, the original drawing that I did that's very cartoony, that was actually a side character in a show that I pitched as an animated show called The Invisible Express, Bobby and the Invisible Express. And so that was one that I pitched, and then this is a classic example of what I mean. They had just greenlit the Infinity Train, Invisible Express, Infinity Train. They were like, we can't greenlight two train shows. So you encounter stuff like that all the time. But I mean, it's all good. All roads led to The Last Mermaid, and I'm really happy to be on this book. So
yeah, and I think it's great, being able to do it as an Image comic, an indie comic creator owned. You get to tell the story you want to tell. And
exactly,
it makes a great book. And
I love Image for that. Yeah,
we can tell your heart is in the book, in the art, in the story. It shows through the characters and through the story. So that's an excellent book.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. I can't wait to see what you guys think when it gets near the end and stuff.
We will be
reading it. Yeah.
So I'm reading it. And it's going to be
Anytime.
one that I keep in my pull bag and review off and on, just letting people know about it because I really have enjoyed it. Every now and then I find one on the shelf that I didn't have in my pull bag and it just jumps out at me. And this is one of those. And it just makes for a great story. I mean, you get Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, but you don't get the same heart that you get from an indie comic like The Last Mermaid.
Well, I really
Yeah.
appreciate that, and you're 100% right. I'm putting all my heart and soul into it, and it's a labor of love. It's definitely not for sales, that's for sure. So I'm really thankful to people like you guys out there that are willing to give something a try that's not Superman and Batman and stuff people are used to, you know.
It makes for great work. I'm going to go back and I'm going to find your older comics that you've put out to read, and I look forward to finishing this one as it comes out and reading the next one you were talking about, Royals. You know,
Thank you so much.
fan, I will follow your work.
Oh man, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Awesome. And hopefully one day we'll run into you at a convention and we get all this stuff signed that we've got
that would be so cool. I really actually want to go to Heroes Con, right? That's the name.
Yeah, it's Heroes.
Yeah, I've heard about it my whole life since I was a kid, you know, like ads in the comics and stuff. So I can't wait to go to that one. If they'll ever have me, I'll be there.
Awesome.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, definitely. Hey, Josh, we might could pull a few strings, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can ask them to have me, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, let everybody know to check this guy out because he's got some great comics. We appreciate you being here tonight, being with us. We are excited for the next 4, 5, 6, 7, 30 issues of The Last Mermaid. You know, it's going to be a great ride. I'm sure it already has been so far. And if you're not reading this book, you should be. Get to your local comic shop, find it. Are we getting a 6-issue trade when it hits issue 6?
Yep, the next month after the 6th issue, there'll be a trade.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So if you can't find issues 1 through 4 right now, once 6 hits, you'll be able to get the trade and catch up on it. If you can, go hunt for it, guys. Go in your back issue bins at your local shops and find this book. It's a great read.